Welcome, Board Game Soloists, to Top 5 Solo Games. I'm horror writer and board game addict J. Allen Riker. You can call me Jeff. And these are the top 5 games that I own but haven't learned yet due to being too intimidated. I'm learning games, but others seem to always jump the line. This is a humbling topic for me, so if you could not be too brutal in the comments, I'd really appreciate it, In fact, maybe you could tell me about a game that has intimidated you so much that either you haven't learned it or maybe it took you a long time to do so, and how you managed to get to the point where you were able to learn it. So what's on my table? You can probably just barely see it, but it is Marvel Zombies. I really like the game quite a lot. I've been playing it for at least a week. It's fast and fun, except the setup, which is a bear, and swapping out minis that oftentimes do almost nothing. But aside from that, I also plan on using the superhero miniatures to dive into some superhero miniature skirmish games, which I'm only just now researching. I think I found a good one. I believe it's called Slugfest, that I'm going to be trying out pretty soon. Anyway, though, on to the main topic, which is too intimidated, haven't learned it. So this is not just about the weight of the game. Weight clearly is subjective. Some things are going to be easier on some players' brains and harder on other players' brains. Some people will weigh things that seem to be hard to learn higher, while once you've learned them, maybe they're very easy to play. For example, one interesting segment of the board gaming population are wargamers, because there are a lot of wargamers that don't actually play other board games. They just consider themselves war gamers rather than board gamers. So a lot of the times when you see a war games weight, I would say, unless it's a very popular one, take it with a grain of salt, because a war game 3 is like a regular board game 4. They are just used to nitpicky rules, fiddliness, having to remember a lot of things every turn, and especially solo where they're playing two-handed. Just be careful on that front. I think that brings up something that can add weight to a game, and that is having to learn a game and learn the solo for it. I very rarely convince myself to learn the standard way to play the game. If the standard way to play the game is not solo, I end up learning both at the same time. And as you know, as a solo gamer, there's no one there to teach it to you. You've got to learn it on your own. There are also fewer people making videos on it, although that is definitely getting better over time. As Rodney, the beloved Rodney, says, there are solo rules, but I'll leave you to discover those on your own. Well, I plead with you. Please teach me the solo rules, because I definitely learn best from video. And actually, you'll find that is a factor in my most intimidating games, including this first one, Shadows of Malice. Shadows of Malice is rated a 3.18. It is described as a cooperative game in which 1 to 8 players work to unseal hidden wells of light to prevent the shadow demon Zulthul from gaining a physical form and overrunning the realm of Ethos. So what is it exactly about Shadows of Malice that makes it so intimidating to me? I have learned games with significantly higher weights than 3.18. That number doesn't scare me. One thing that I do find a little intimidating is this is so abstract and stark looking. The designer wanted to make the game very generic in appearance in order to have the player filling in the gaps. And I think that it looks more serious and intimidating than it needs to. The other thing, besides just its appearance, is that there aren't any videos to learn from almost. There are very few videos about this game, and the majority of them are review videos where you catch snippets of gameplay, but you don't see full playthroughs. and or rules walkthroughs. My learning pattern is I like to watch a video that explains the rules, look at the rule book, watch a playthrough video, and then like maybe play along with the video until I feel like I have my feet under me. That's not possible with some of these smaller games, which Shadows of Malice definitely is. It's also got a pretty thick booklet. It's not concise at all. And although I don't think that the game is that hard, it does scare me a little bit. I've opened it and put it back on my shelf and played something else. I love the look of the game. I love the concept and its abstract nature, and I will eventually learn how to play this game. So that is our number 6. I know this is called Top 5 Solo, but I just couldn't leave that off the list. So that's our number 6, Too Intimidating, Haven't Learned Yet game. Our number 5 is Dawn of the Zeds. So you see that the weight here has jumped up quite a bit to 3.82. Still not in crazy territory, but definitely heavier. So in this, if you just scan the comments, you will find things like, this game is hard as nails and very tough to win. One game can last 3 to 4 hours. I like the game concept, and it's certainly a very challenging game. I wish the rules were slightly more intuitive. So comments like that, a lot of times what freaks me out isn't the game itself, but the comments and discussion in forums and here on BGG around a game. There's the length of the game certainly has something to do with it. What I've read is that the best way to learn this is that there are missions that add things in as you go. A lot of people say, well, they don't like the first several rule sets, and people will respond, well, those are just really just to learn with. You haven't really added enough into the game to get a feel for it. But these games can last for 3 to 4 hours. Like, that's a big investment to play suboptimal rules for that long. I am glad for the ramp up, and that's probably what's going to let me break into this game, rather than if I had to jump into it with a full rule set. There are 4 books. There are 4 books in this, and that I also find very scary, especially coming from a solo background of having to switch between rule books, flip between the rules and the solo rules. That is an instant way to intimidate me, is to have a lot of rule books. So that is my number 5, Too Intimidating, Didn't Learn game, Dawn of the Zeds. My number 4, Too Intimidating, Haven't Learned game, is CO2 Second Chance. It has a weight of 4.08. So the games in this video, by the way, I should have mentioned this at the beginning, are ordered by weight. That doesn't necessarily mean that the one with the highest weight is the one that I am the most frightened to learn, although actually looking ahead, that is the case here. So maybe I let listed weight affect me more than subconsciously, more than I thought. The description here, I feel like states things in terms where it just kind of makes you scared to play. In the game, CO2, each character is the CEO of an energy company responding to government requests for new green power plants. And each region starts with a certain number of carbon emissions permits at its disposal. These CEPs are granted by the UN, and they must be spent whenever the region needs to install the energy infrastructure for a project or to construct a fossil fuel power plant. CEPs can be bought and sold on the market, and their price fluctuates throughout the game. So the theme, it's a heavy theme, right? It's kind of depressing, although I will say this, some people said in the comments that it makes the situation seem solvable enough that maybe it actually makes light of the situation. But then I read other people who said, I love this game, even though I haven't won it yet. So maybe it is like global warming. I don't know. One thing that instantly makes me worried about a game is the name Lacerda. Am I a Lacerda person? Am I a Lacerda board gamer? I don't know yet. I decided to ease myself in by playing by buying Bot Factory, and AKA Baby's First Lacerda. And it wasn't particularly hard, but it's so different from the rest. It's such a jump that I don't feel like, to me, it didn't mean anything after I found that it was easy to play. It should be easy to play. Maybe I'd be ready for Kanban from playing it. Maybe I would feel more confident because I would at least have a grip on the flow of the game, if my understanding is correct. I've never played Kanban. But jumping to a game that's weighted 4.08, that's considered to be maybe one of the more difficult Lacerda games, it doesn't reduce the intimidation factor enough. One thing that I mentioned in the description, you're doing things like you're getting CEPs, you're going and petitioning the UN. Maybe it's just, I don't know, worker placement or things that are mechanisms that I've played in other games, but they are given intimidating names. You know, you're not placing a worker, you're petitioning the UN for CEP permits. And then, of course, there are the comments. Things like, the theme in this game is fantastic, and the game is frustrating as hell and super hard, but that fits the theme even more. And things like, yet to win, and one or two miscalculated actions will cost you the game. So, as I researched each of these games, I became more excited to eventually learn them, and I will be getting this to my table, and then I'll be able to say, hey, I played a real Lacerda game. So that is my number 4, too intimidating, haven't learned, CO2 Second Chance. So our number 3, too intimidating, haven't learned, is Cerebria, the Inside World. So if there's another name that strikes fear into the hearts of self-doubting gamers, the same as Lacerda, it must be Mind Clash. I have not yet played a Mind Clash game. This is the one that I bought in order to do so. First, because I found it on sale, and second, because I really like the art, and both on the box and the very colorful board, and I think that the theme seems really neat. So you see that the weight is 4.34, and the theme is an abstract one where you are playing as parts of the human psyche, and trying to gain control through area majority and influence. So once again, this game has me asking a question, you know, of what type of gamer am I? Am I a Mind Clash gamer? I guess that once I manage to learn this beast, that I will know. And I'm hoping it's not because the game just beats me down and has me begging for mercy. Though I do actually have some fears about that. I don't know if an area control game solo was the best idea for a first game, but it's the boat that I'm in. So some of the comments are, it's a brain ache of a game, a real brain burner, high level crunch. I could feel my synapses explode. And of course, when we sit down at the table, we want something that's going to engage our brain. I think all of us, to a greater or lesser degree, like to feel more immersed in our game when our brains are kind of wrestling with our options and optimizing a path forward. Or else even people who like narrative games would, I guess, just be reading a book or just a choose your own adventure book with no other mechanisms. But there is definitely a question of how much. And I don't know if I've reached my upper limit yet, but then again, the games that I've learned have barely breached the weight of 4. So we'll find out. I know that some people were saying that this game is also a table hog. When I bought it, I didn't realize how big the box is. It is actually a very big box, and knowing the box size looking at this picture, I think I'll be able to make it fit, but if it's cramped, that always increases my frustration with the game and could cause me to quit prematurely. Mindclash has a really good reputation, which I have not experienced personally, and that reputation makes me feel like pushing through learning this game has a high chance of paying off, and I am looking forward to eventually building up the courage to get this number 3 too intimidating, haven't learned game to the table, Cerebria, the Inside World. So my number 2 too intimidating, haven't learned game is Gaia Project. With a weight of 4.4, it is the co-heaviest game on this list. And it's a very popular game. It's almost a lifestyle game. I know that I've seen people in the forums, and I've also seen content creators who play this game so often, it definitely seems to squeeze out a lot of other games that they might play in any given year. And that really makes me want to learn and get into this game and get over the initial hump. So I'll tell you why this game intimidates me so much, aside from this 4.4 weight, of course. And that is that one of my tricks for learning complicated games is that if it has an app, to get the app and play that first. Once I have a framework to hang the information on, even though that the app is usually handling rules in the background that after I move to the physical game, I then have to take over, I feel far more confident. Well, the Gaia Project app, I actually do own it, but I couldn't get it to work on my tablet. So I played Terra Mystica instead, which I know was just as it re-implements Terra Mystica. So I know it's very similar, but there was something different about this one. First, as I was playing it, I felt kind of like a loser the whole time. Like I felt like I was barely able to initiate any of my plans. And yeah, I only played, I think, 2 times. And so that shows a lot of room for growth. But one thing I do read in the comments on this game is that people feel a little bit more powerful in Gaia Project than they do in Terra Mystica. But the thing that really tripped me up is a part of the game that I had seen in a video that I was hoping that the app would help me understand. And that is these energy tracks right here. There's like a loop of when you are able to use this sort of currency or this resource. So I know that in Terra Mystica you're dealing with several different resources, and one of them is this purple resource, which I can't name for you. And even if I could, I would only be able to name it for you in Terra Mystica terms. But it cycles between the 3 different locations, and where you take it from, I believe, makes a difference in how much it gives you. I had gone into the app hoping that I would learn about this, because this seemed to be one of the larger stumbling blocks for the game. And yet with the app handling this on its own, I never understood what was going on with it. And it makes me kind of feel like a dum-dum. Honestly, that's like the biggest reason, that's the biggest thing that's kept me from getting the Gaia Project to the table. Now, it's not a good reason. I'm not saying that I couldn't overcome it, and I will. I swear I will. There are people who say that they've played this literally hundreds of times and feel like they've barely scratched the surface. That is really amazing. It sounds like a really rewarding experience. It also sounds very intimidating. But eventually, I will get my number 2 too intimidating, haven't played game to the table, Gaia Project. We finally made it to the top of the list and the co-heaviest game. These games are pretty legendary. Some of them are more difficult, some of them are less difficult. I think that maybe I should have purchased a less difficult game to start with, but I did not, and so now I'm stuck with this and feel like I can't buy another one until I figure out if this is a series of games that I will like. So with no further preamble, my number 1 too intimidating, haven't played game, Pax Transhumanity. So in this game, You imagine instead a future in which humanity explores the fringes of the achievable, in which scientists and technocrats rewrite the human condition by expanding into new spheres, the developing world, the cloud, and space, win by solving humanitarian problems, demolish social and technological barriers, and guide human progress toward a future of your design. That sounds like a really nice difference from the majority of games that I played. I have the idea of a positive future is sometimes a hard one to imagine, and so it could be a fun one to play, right? I will say though that like my conception of how you implement this through gameplay, just the idea of how different it could be, I find intimidating. I know how you do combat and conflict in games. That's kind of the basis of, a lot of games before co-op games became popular is conflict. So I read that and I think, now how do we actually do that? And then, funny enough, now this hasn't intimidated me until I just read it while researching for this video, but the sudden death ending. Oh boy, that's a great phrase to make somebody want to play a 4.4 weight game, a sudden death ending. So I will say the comments on this game are pretty brutal regarding the difficulty. They say things like, complex for the hell of it. It's virtually impossible to learn from the rulebook. Eklund seems to delight in making rulebooks that actively hinder learning his games. And the last time that I checked, there are next to no YouTube videos on how to play this, which is my primary means of learning games and is something that I really should take into account in the future. Although when it comes to crowdfunding, if you look at the existing games before paying, the existing videos for a game before paying for it, you're not going to be backing anything, which might be a good move for me. I don't know. But the game looks so different, and that a lot of the comments mention how different it is, so that I really do want to get this tiny, furious game to the table at some point. Well, that's it from me. Those are my top 5 most intimidating solo games that I have not been able to get to the table. What games have intimidated you in the past? And do you have any strategies to share with me and the rest of us on how you managed to push through? I'd love to hear about it. And as always, have a great day and keep playing solo.